Our 150-year-old farm bridge had been standing long before any of the modern suburban developments crept into our valley. It wasn't just a structure. It was a legacy of generations, crafted from oak beams, iron bolts, and sweat-soaked hands that had endured countless seasons. Every plank held stories of livestock herded, of children splashing in the stream beneath, of summer picnics on the creaking span. For my family, it was a living testament to our heritage. Then came Karen, or, as she would later be known in local legend, Chua Karen. Her domain wasn't even ours. In fact, she didn't live anywhere near our farm. She had recently been elected to the homeowners' association board of a nearby subdivision, a fact that seemed to inflate her sense of entitlement exponentially. The day she arrived with bulldozers and a clipboard, she made it clear. Old bridges are unsafe, and someone must take responsibility. We tried reasoning with her. We explained that the bridge had been inspected by a structural engineer last year and deemed perfectly sound. Historical preservation laws also protected the property. None of that mattered. Karen didn't just see a bridge. She saw a challenge to her authority. Before we knew it, her hired crew was tearing through centuries of history, chainsaws roaring and earth moving like a scene from an apocalyptic movie. Neighbors came running, cameras in hand, but Karen waved them off. "This is for public safety," she declared with a steely smile. Public safety? On private property with zero jurisdiction in a place she didn't even live? My father's voice shook as he shouted, but it was drowned out by the relentless whine of machinery. By the end of the day, the bridge was gone. Splintered wood, twisted iron, and memories scattered like debris. The emotional toll was immediate. Our children stared at the empty gap in disbelief. Grandparents shook their heads, some muttering curses at a modern world that had no respect for history. Yet Karen didn't stop. She emailed the HOA board, claiming she had preemptively removed a potential hazard. The audacity of it left us stunned. She hadn't followed procedures, hadn't consulted anyone, hadn't even set foot on our property legally. Our lawyer, however, saw a path forward. This isn't just vandalism. It's a violation of property rights, historical preservation laws, and trespassing statutes, he said, eyes narrowing. The wheels of a lawsuit were set into motion. What started as disbelief quickly escalated into full-blown legal firepower. We would not let Karen bulldoze our history without consequences. Little did we know this lawsuit would not only expose Karen's extreme overreach, but also reveal secrets about the HOA, shady backroom deals, and a level of suburban drama that felt straight out of a reality TV show. What began as a battle over wood and iron was about to spiral into a legal storm, wild, messy, and absolutely unforgettable. The next morning, our phones were flooded with messages from neighbors, reporters, and even random strangers who had seen the destruction online. Videos of the bulldozed bridge were going viral, with hashtags ranging from Ho Karen to Save the Farm Bridge. The attention was surreal. Suddenly, our quiet rural life had become a nationwide spectacle. Karen, however, remained unflappable. She had already drafted a statement for the HOA newsletter. In the interest of community safety, the removal of old structures, including privately owned ones, is necessary. She didn't care that the bridge wasn't under HOA jurisdiction. She didn't care that she had no legal authority. Karen's world ran on a self-imposed logic, where safety and control were synonymous, and everyone else's rights were merely suggestions. Our lawyer insisted on documenting everything: photos of the bridge before demolition, emails from Karen, even eyewitness accounts from neighbors were collected meticulously. "We're not just fighting for a bridge," he said. "We're fighting for the principle that no one, HOA or otherwise, can bulldoze history without consent." Meanwhile, the community was divided. Some HOA members quietly supported Karen, citing vague fears about liability issues, while others whispered about her ambition to expand, power beyond her own neighborhood. She wasn't content with running one HOA board. She seemed to believe she was a regional enforcer, policing the aesthetic and safety standards of anyone in her perceived territory. The absurdity hit a peak when Karen sent a big cease and desist letter to a local historian, who posted pictures of the bridge online, calling it a misrepresentation of public safety hazards. It was stunning. The woman had simply documented what she saw, yet Karen framed it as a legal infraction. We laughed through our frustration, but deep down the situation was terrifying. Karen had weaponized bureaucracy, authority, and social media against private citizens. Then came the first formal legal response. Our attorney filed a complaint against Karen and the HOA, citing trespass, destruction of private property, and violations of historical preservation law. The document was thorough, referencing statutes, historical records, and witness testimony. Karen's response? A letter dismissing the claims as overblown grievances from entitled landowners. But she had underestimated us. We were ready to fight, armed with documentation, community support, and a determination that came from watching generations of our family. History literally reduced to splinters. The lawsuit promised to be messy. Not only were we suing for the bridge, but for every principle it represented: heritage, legal boundaries, and respect for private property. By the second week, our case was attracting media attention. Headlines ranged from incredulous to outright sensational. HOA Karen destroys 150-year-old. Bridge and suburban power. Trip goes too far. Courtroom doors opened to a spectacle none of us anticipated. Journalists crowded the hall. Cameras perched on every ledge. And Karen arrived flanked by her lawyer, clipboard in hand, like a general surveying a battlefield. She appeared calm, even smug, as if the destruction of centuries of history was a minor inconvenience, rather than a major legal transgression. Our lawyer presented the case with precision, showing structural reports, historical records, and photos of the bridge before and after the demolition. Every plank, every iron bolt, every stain on the wood told a story of heritage, hard work, and family history. Karen's team, in contrast, argued procedural points, that she acted in the interest of safety and that the property's age made it liability-prone. It was surreal. Safety, liability, on property she didn't own, governed by rules she had no right to enforce. The hearing quickly devolved into chaos. Witnesses testified about the bridge's historical significance. Community members recounted Karen's increasingly erratic behavior, from issuing unauthorized notices to trespassing on private property. The judge, visibly astonished, occasionally paused to consult notes, likely questioning how far HOA overreach could legally extend. Karen's most audacious claim? That her HOA role gave her community-wide authority to remove structures she deemed unsafe regardless of ownership. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Our lawyer countered, meticulously quoting property law, state historical protection statutes, and even HOA bylaws that explicitly limited jurisdiction. Karen's reasoning was unraveling fast. The media frenzy outside escalated. Local reporters broadcasted live updates, and social media exploded with memes depicting Karen as a suburban supervillain with a bulldozer. Even late-night talk shows picked up the story. Our small farm had become the epicenter of a national conversation about HOA overreach, private property rights, and the sometimes absurd reach of modern bureaucracy. By the third day, the judge ordered a temporary injunction, no further demolition, and Karen was barred from setting foot on our property. It was a small victory, but symbolic. The courtroom drama had validated our fight, proving that overreach has limits, even when packaged with self-righteousness and paperwork. However, the lawsuit was far from over. Karen's legal team vowed to appeal, promising vigorous defense and hinting at additional claims about supposed safety risks. Meanwhile, we had to contend with the emotional weight of the bridge's absence, the ongoing media circus, and the anticipation of a drawn-out legal battle. Yet through it all, a strange camaraderie emerged. Neighbors, once distant, rallied around us. The community banded together to rebuild a temporary crossing, share meals, and support each other emotionally. What Karen tried to destroy inadvertently had brought people closer. Months passed, and the legal battle dragged on. But the tide slowly turned in our favor. Expert witnesses confirmed the bridge's structural integrity, historical preservation boards condemned the unauthorized demolition, and the media coverage remained sympathetic to our cause. Karen's credibility began to erode under the weight of public scrutiny. Our attorney proposed a settlement that included compensation for the destroyed bridge and legal fees, along with an official statement from the HOA acknowledging her overreach. Karen predictably resisted, insisting she acted for the greater good, but the mounting evidence and the growing public backlash left her with little choice. Eventually, she agreed, though her statement read more like a begrudging acknowledgement than a genuine apology. With the settlement secured, we began the painstaking process of rebuilding. Salvaged materials, historical blueprints, and modern engineering merged to restore the bridge as faithfully as possible. Each plank replaced was a triumph. Every bolt reinserted felt like reclaiming a piece of our history. Children played on it again, grandparents admired the restoration, and the community celebrated the victory over bureaucratic absurdity. The lawsuit, now a cautionary tale, had lasting effects. HOA regulations were reviewed and clarified to prevent future overreach. Karen's tenure on the board ended amid controversy, a reminder that unchecked authority, even with good intentions, can cause immense damage. Our farm, once a target of her ambition, had become a symbol of resilience, history, and the power of standing up for one's rights. In the end, the bulldozed bridge taught us more than loss. It taught us the importance of vigilance, the strength of community, and the absurd extremes one person could go to when given a little power. Karen may have bulldozed our bridge, but she could never bulldoze the legacy we fought to preserve. Our story spread, inspiring others facing similar overreach to document, resist, and protect what matters. The 150-year-old farm bridge stood again, stronger than ever, a testament not only to craftsmanship but to justice, determination, and the sometimes wild chaos of defending what is yours.